You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
The number one trait that I've observed is that the best, most successful microcap investors know the game they're playing. They're working towards mastering or have mastered their investing strategies through practice, repetition, observation, and most importantly, it's an investing strategy that matches their own personality.
Welcome back to Mining Stock Education. I am your host, Bill Powers, and you're in for a treat today. A new guest that covers small cap investing, microcap investing as a media figure, but he's also the host of podcast that teaches people about investing in small caps, not only the mining sector, although he does cover the mining sector, but just all the different aspects of how you can make money in small caps. I'm speaking of Robert Kraft. He's the CEO of SNN Network, and his podcast is called the Planet MicroCap Podcast. And this is a podcast that I've listened to. I can even see myself cutting my grass on my zero-turn rider, listening to some of his hour-long interviews with investment managers that invest in the small cap sphere. So thank you for coming on the show for the first time, Robert.
Absolutely. And Bill, thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of your show as well. I remember listening to the interview that you did with Ian Castle a long time. I guess that was like 3 years ago now, but really appreciate you and what you do. And thank you for listening to my shows. And this should be fun. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And Ian's a smart guy. We both agree on that.
100%.
Your background, how did you focus on small cap investing? And now you're running a podcast that focuses on making money in small caps.
Sure thing. And I'll try and make it short and sweet so that we can get to the meat and potatoes here. I came into the business in 2011, right from undergrad. I thought I was going to be a stockbroker when I was going into my senior year of college. That didn't work out, but during my internship, being a junior analyst, I just kind of fell in love with microcaps and just doing the extra deep dive due diligence. And it was funny. It just so happened as a senior in college, my first job, they had me looking at cannabis public companies. And this is 2011 at the time, just being like, what? Like there's these things are public. Like there's all this extra, people aren't covering it. It was so much fun for me. And right after I graduated, thought maybe I was going to go into the stockbroker route, ended up not working out. And then came into the family business. SNN was founded by my parents back in 1998 as a totally different company, but had reformed into this media company covering microcaps. And I just saw a really great opportunity for me to blend both my passion for microcap investing and microcaps, as well as media and communications, which is what I actually went to undergrad for. So here I am.
Both of us are podcast hosts, and one of the pleasures and things we get to enjoy as a podcast host is not only learning from our guests while we're recording, but also the conversations we have pre-recording and post-recording. So since you've interviewed so many smart people in the small cap sphere, talk to me about some of the traits that you've observed over the years. Like, what are the key traits to be successful in small cap investing or speculation?
I think above all else, and we can get into nitty gritties on how people, dissect balance sheets, income statements, and going through the 10Ks and 10Qs. But I'd say the number one thing across the board is that, well, one, there is no right or wrong strategy as long as it's legal, of course, to making money in the stock market. But the number one trait that I've observed is that the best, most successful microcap investors know the game they're playing. They're working towards mastering or have mastered their investing strategies through practice, repetition, observation, and most importantly, it's an investing strategy that matches their own personality. Another trait is accepting that luck plays a big factor in one's success, and being humble enough, despite maybe the 10,000 plus hours of work and research and all that stuff that has gone into working on one's investing strategy, realizing that chance will always play a role. At the end of the day, investors are, we're making, for the most part, highly educated and researched bets. And even the most heavily researched and understood ideas can ultimately not work, but also vice versa.
So you mentioned Ian. Ian got invested in small caps, interested, I should say, when he was a teenager. Do you notice that's a trait also, that a lot of these people you interview got going in small caps at a very young age?
More and more recently. I mean, I remember doing an interview with Michael Liu, who actually happens to also work with Ian, back when he was still, I think he was still in high school and became super passionate about microcap investing. And ever since then, I realized that was a trait that it was both sides, right? It was folks that, maybe discovered it from a parent or a teacher and said, oh, this is interesting, let me dive a little deeper. Or they picked up that first, intelligent investor or, one up on Wall Street and realized that this is where alpha lives, is in microcap investing. Or they just got passionate about investing. And as they started going down the rabbit hole, they realized, oh, small microcaps is where it's at. It just still blows my mind that it's still not covered as much on legacy media outlets. It creates a nice opportunity for us, right? But it still completely blows my mind, when how people who aren't in microcaps or small caps even still think of this as wild, wild west, penny stocks, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mistakes. So you talk to the investment managers that do this full time, but you also run conferences. You're a content provider. What are the most common mistakes you see small cap investors make?
Not cutting losers when the thesis is clearly broken. That is by far the most common error. And this is amongst pros. This is amongst newbies. That's happened to me before, where you're so convinced, you've done so much work and you're just unwilling to accept that, this one didn't work out, and not understanding that there are more fish in the sea. So confirmation bias is a real thing. You can say you talked with management, you did your channel checks, but you may not have asked that challenging question to a customer, to that management team, to the CFO. So just not asking that extra step question where maybe it actually probably came up in your research, but you're just like, whatever, everything else checks the boxes. But when it comes to small microcap investing, every single company has hair. There's hair everywhere. And you just have to be your own best risk manager and understand, okay, I can deal with this. I can deal with that. All right. These things are risky, but they're working themselves out. That is by far the number one mistake I see. And also, hosting a conference and doing interviews with management teams, management teams can be great salespeople. So it is also, I think this is both a mistake and also a one trait that I really respect with a lot of investors is when they do hear a management interview or they do a one-on-one is, taking a step back, not just going right away and investing and say, oh, this wow, amazing, greatest presentation I ever heard. I really respect a lot of folks that kind of are able to take a step back saying, okay, they're going to always try and put their best foot forward. Let's understand the opportunity, what that means. And were they at all self-deprecating or at least giving the other side? Like I have this new show, Due Diligence with Robert Kraft on the Planet MicroCap stream, where my favorite question, I have two favorite questions. One is, give me what the business does in one line. And my second question that I love to ask all of them is, what does failure look like? What is the downside risk here? And I really always key into what management how they answer that question, because that tells me a lot.
What's your follow-up question when they say, everything's running smoothly, there's really nothing to worry about? Do you have a follow-up? Because I've been given that kind of answer before.
Yeah, it depends. Listen, on that show, I want to let companies, kind of, this is how they want to present themselves. Okay. And especially if that's going to be their answer. Okay. That's how you want to answer it.
Let the listener decide.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'll between us, that's definitely something that I would be like, really? You can't think of anything that could potentially go wrong with your business. I'm like, okay. That shows a level of overwhelming confidence in the business. I appreciate that 100%. But at the same time, like it's okay. Like it's okay. You can tell us what can potentially go wrong. Because guess what? There's really smart investors that will find it.
Absolutely. Yes. And blog about it.
That too.
Yeah. So as you know, we narrowly focus on junior mining stocks on this show. Since you have a broader exposure to the psyche of small cap investors, share with me and my audience, how do generalist small cap investors that don't focus on the mining sector view junior mining stocks?
I mean, just like small micros in general, I'd say that junior mining stocks also sometimes suffer from this wild, wild west mentality. I mean, especially since the boom that we saw when I first came into the business, I only went to mining conferences. You know them all, and especially back in 2011. At that time, it was like, wow, gold is almost at 2,000. It's definitely going to hit that. It's going to go to 5,000. The silver. I bought a silver coin for like $34 at the time, thinking I was a genius. Like, this is a great investment. I can't believe it. And, so I think, and then of course from there, because everything was so, a craze. I mean, there was a lot of speculative companies going out there, with very, very high risk projects and maybe not greatest geopolitical situations. And, a lot of generalists may have seen this and, might have lost some money in that. And didn't really understand that this wasn't the potential home run like management was saying, because there's quite a few of these management teams that are they're good at talking the story. I'm not going to use the P word when it comes to that. You probably know what I'm talking about there. But I'd say for the most part, generalists are they're a little bit extra careful. And I'd say that it's because junior mining also gets lumped in with story stocks. I mean, it's a pre-revenue business for most of its life cycle, especially on the exploration project generator side of things, right? And it also requires then, because it's pre-revenue, and it's going to take a little bit more time and understanding, not just how the business works, but now I got to understand how to read drill results. What
is it more challenging than biomed or tech? Do you think?
I'm going to get to that point.
Okay.
You're totally right. And all the time, I always say that, my junior mining and biotech might as well be kissing cousins, right? When it comes to this stuff. And because it's not that generalist investors aren't open to understanding that and wanting to learn a little bit more about how to understand drill results. And I'll be the first to admit that you don't need to be a geologist to have a basic understanding of how, a company is performing and whatnot. But I also think that it's sometimes circumstantial. I mean, it might also depend on how you first made your money, right? If you made it speculating in junior mining stocks, guess what? And there's probably definitely luck involved there. You probably are going to go down that rabbit hole and know everything there is to know about investing in junior mining companies as best you can, and understanding the cycles or the cyclical nature of the business, and how there's different pockets and there's different regions that might be hot or might not be, or how you want to go to safer jurisdictions versus not safer jurisdictions during this certain time period, depending on when the price of gold or other commodities are. It really just also depends on that experience. But I'd say for the most part, generalists are geared towards some of those junior mining stocks that near-term production, have some kind of production. Just it definitely makes things easier to put the toe in the water when you're like, oh, there's some revenue I can kind of point to, even if it's not profitable yet. At least there's something I can point to understand, like, okay, this is where the business is going. These might be its takeout partners, because we are dealing with small microcaps, right? So that's for the most part how generalists think about it. I mean, I'll be honest, there are some that's just like, no way, that like junior mining, like, nope, just they hear mine and they're like, nope, but it's a bad joke. But there's also quite a few folks that are contrarians and understand that, hey, it's, everything that's unloved can be loved again. Everything that's loved can also be unloved again. So it's not a total hate, but it is definitely with an extra watchful eye.
So you've interviewed people in the resource sector like me. What are some of the key things that you've learned as an interviewer from these skilled resource investors?
For sure. And I'll definitely shout out to, and listen, I'm sure your audience probably knows these folks all too well. You've interviewed them many, many times, as have I. But my go-tos have been Brent Cook, Rick Rule, Joe Mazumdar. I've interviewed them quite a few times, as well as Adrian Day, actually, as well. And it's with each interview, it's usually having to do with, okay, what's going on right now? What's hot right now? What's interesting? What are you interested? What are you looking at? So in terms of, just overall things, there's not much I can really tell from that. But the main things that I've taken from them is, no matter what the timing is or where we're at in certain cycles, there's always things that you can go on your checklist. Where is the project located? Grade, how much will it cost to actually extract whatever metal it is? The infrastructure, has this management team done it before in the same commodity, which was a big one for me, honestly, because, you can interview some of these teams and like, yeah, I know I was at Placer and I was at, Agnico Eagle, doing silver, this, and now we have this great gold deposit in the Congo. It's like, huh, wait, what? And earlier in my career, I was like, wow, they've been very successful and they worked on all these different things. And now they have this new project. But that was one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting. And yeah, that's not to say that a management team can't be successful having, mined and brought online or sold a project in a different commodity and now is in something else that might be more interesting to them and they've done their deep dive. But it's definitely something that I've considered, as well as infrastructure. I love asking the geopolitical question. That's been one of my main questions to ask almost every management team, especially if they have projects in third world countries, in Africa. I've joked about the Congo, that's a major risk, a big risk. So those have been the main things I think that I've learned from them, and just really listening to what they have to say, because they've been doing it for a long time, not just diving into any company that they, recommend or anything like that, or that's featured in their newsletters. And of course, doing the follow-up due diligence and talking with management team, but I've really respected their longevity, their careers, and the success they've had.
So you're the CEO of SNN Network, and you're also the host of the Planet MicroCap Showcase in Las Vegas coming up here, a conference in which I'll be participating. You're adding a resource track, so I'll be moderating one of your resource sessions there. That is in early May. Tell us what we should expect at that conference, who's attending, and a little bit about your network too, please.
Sure thing. So our upcoming event is the Planet MicroCap Showcase. It is happening May 3rd through the 5th at Bally's Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. We're very excited for this 2.5-day event, which starts midday on May 3rd. I don't have exactly what time Bill will be doing his thing, but that's going to be a half day of educational panels and keynotes from folks across all microcap, covering not just mining and resources, but tech, gaming, some cannabis. And so we're very excited about that day. Networking events on both Tuesday night, Wednesday night, company presentations happening 8 to 6 on Wednesday, and then one-on-ones with companies and our participants at the event. What they can expect, it's a boutique event. We're not here to pretend to say that we are one of these big CES events kind of things, but it's really an opportunity to network with the core microcap audience, both from an issuer and investor side of things. Over the last 10 plus years that I've been at SNN, we've been able to cultivate an amazing network of investors and issuers that really contribute so much value to the microcap space. And some of those folks will be in attendance and are folks that, if you really are looking to learn more, boost your own networks, learn about potential opportunities that are out there, as well as to get good quality education on how we should think about various sectors or look at investing in microcaps, our event is a place for you. And listen, who doesn't love coming to Vegas, man? I mean, it's I've been now a couple times since the pandemic has broken out, and it's back. We're going to be following all the COVID protocols, of course. Going to have hand sanitizer, masks available if you need it. But we're so excited to be back in person, and I'm pumped to see everybody in person. I've been under lock and key, I feel like, for the last 2 years, so doing virtuals, which is a lot of fun, but I'm excited to see everybody in Vegas.
Yes. All right. And you can see me too. And we're going to link to that conference in the show notes, as well as Robert's website, snn.network. Do I got that right, Robert?
That's correct. And the conference website to register to come is www.planetmicrocapshowcase.com. We got rooms at Bally's for $79 a night. It is complimentary for investors to attend. And I hope to see you all there.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for coming on today's show, Robert.
Thank you, Bill.